Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29 podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here with Tyler Jones and Glenn Willis. We're recording on June 30, the start of free agency, and lots of new names in the Hawks universe. Eli John Njai, Lamont Butler, Davon Smith. Okay, sorry. I won't go over the summer camp roster. We've got serious big news to deal with. The Hawks are movers and shakers. How do we deal with this new reality? What do you think,
I
Glenn?
mean, it's good. It's good work. I mean, I feel like we should take a minute and took them some time. We talked about it to dig out of the DeJounte Murray trade, and I don't want to make that about DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray didn't trade himself to the Hawks. Um, and understandably, Hawks fans were, you know, wanting to see progress more quickly. But this is what it took. These are the steps they had to take to kind of get to where they could make the moves now, right? So all of it, the Bogdanovich trade, Kevin led the Terrence Mann's not my favorite player club. uh and but this is what this is the pro they needed a couple of years to get to the point where they could spend money on the right kinds of players to put around Trey, put around Jalen, put around Dyson, etc. And so it's phenomenal. I mean, Nickeil Alexander Walker is one of the best point of attack defenders in the league, and he has grown as a 3-point shooter across his career. That matters a lot. Um, Luke Kennard is might be the single best. I mean, non-Steph Curry category might be the single best 3-point shooter in the league. I mean, his numbers are just straight up ridiculous, and he can play on and off the ball. He can do kind of whatever you need him to do. And so I mean, there's still some work to do, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I mean, hopefully the Hawks fans feel rewarded for coming along, even as slow as it felt across the last couple seasons, for them to get to a point where they can add some real pieces like this. They'll miss Levert, but Levert probably has a starting spot in Detroit that the Hawks didn't have for him, and that probably matters. I'll miss watching him play. I enjoyed him, but I mean, we're what, how many hours into this? 5 hours, I guess, into free agency here. And I think the Hawks slated two players that really fit what they do on both ends of the court.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? Like even the best laid plans, it's like, oh, we'll get ready for June 30. We're gonna try to do this, we're gonna try to do this, and then all of a sudden at the last second, Malik Beasley under investigation for gambling. And it's like, well, that kind of changes the picture. And so, yeah, like you said, this stupid, weird stuff, and all of a sudden the Pistons are looking for a starter. And so, that's something that at the last minute factors in and changes things in a crazy way. And, the Hawks still kind of managed and got through it pretty much as well as could be expected. Uh, I know I've forgotten why you watch so many Timberwolves games, Glenn. I know that you do. I know that they're kind of one of your other teams that you keep a pretty close eye on.
Yeah,
Can you
absolutely. I
tell us
mean,
more about Nickeil Alexander Walker?
yeah, I mean, I lived there for 14 years. I've probably gone to
Oh, there you go.
150. I've probably gone to 150 Timberwolves games, in my life. So that's way more than any other team that I've had a chance to kind of watch. But I mean, everyone there, by the way, gonna shout out my one of my best friends, Dane Moore. If you want to go listen to his next podcast, the Dane Moore NBA show, or the Dane Moore show. I can't remember what he calls it that, but go find him, follow him on Twitter. He's an awesome guy, and he will talk about the impact of the loss of Alexander Walker to the Wolves. Great, it'll be a great listen. So go find him and do that. But basically, a guy who came in the league, bounced around. He's played. I mean, some people may not realize he played for Quinn at one point already. And it's just one of those guys that proves that don't let people define you by what you are on day one of your NBA career, right? Work, 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 do the work. And he's getting rewarded for the work that he's done. Came to the league, like, will he be able to shoot the ball? or not. He just did the work, and he's a smart defender. He's a team guy. Doesn't care if he starts or comes off the bench. Will do his draft. I mean, and that's the culture the Hawks are building. Are guys who will just accept the role that they're asked to fill in. And there's going to be games next year where they need him. You're going up against a team with like multiple point of attack defenders, and he might play 35 minutes in a game like that. There are going to be games where they need a lot of him. There might be other games where it's not so much like that, but I mean, if you go just read, the different Timberwolves beat writers that are all talking about how much they enjoyed covering him, how thoughtful he was in all of his media availability. And so I think he's going to be one of those guys that will be another pot. I know Larry Nance was enjoyable last year and was awarded for a lot of his work in the community and otherwise and stuff like that. And Trey was great last year as well and was recognized for that. But he'll be another guy who I think is refreshing in how transparent he is and um, how much he does try to connect with media, fans, and his thoughtful answers and such. But main thing is he works on both ends of the court, right? He's not going to be some dynamic pick and roll guy, but he can play on the catch. He can shoot the ball. He's smart. He makes the right read. He's going to fit right in. And like we said, it matters that he knows what Quinn's looking for because he's played for him before.
This is going to be the longest we've ever gone. Like Tyler is, he's ready to go. But I got to ask Glenn one more question here. Like, if you're watching this Timberwolves offseason, are you like if you're the person making the decisions, are you prioritizing Julius Randle and Naz Reid over Nickeil
Yes.
Alexander Walker?
Yes.
Really? You want to
Yeah.
have both of them and Julius Randle even if you lose Walker?
Well, here's why. Julius Randle's not a perfect player, right? And Naz Reid has defensive limitations that show up when you get really deep in the playoffs, right? But they've been drafting wings and developing wings, preparing for this summer. They knew they were going to be. They don't have a replacement for Julius Randle. There's not one. They don't have They don't have another four and a half that can shoot like there's not another one. And so they had to pay those guys to kind of keep the configurability that they have at the four and the five. And so I don't want to go deep on their roster, but there was two young wings that this year that showed a lot, and I think that makes the Timberwolves feel encouraged to keep the guys that are harder to replace. And yes, it hurts to lose to kill Alexander Walker, but they knew this was coming, and they've been developing guys to step into to that role to the point that they can uh, by knowing this day was coming.
All right, let's go to our Memphis correspondent, Tyler Jones. Luke Kennard, what are we to expect here?
So, what if Garrison Matthews, but was good at basketball? And like, no disrespect to Garrison Matthews, but it's been like when Garrison Matthews was acquired, like he was a shot in the arm and he gave the Hawks some real shooting when he first came in, but he's been playing far too much for the level of basketball player that he is. And Luke Kennard is just a like real NBA seventh, eighth man who, on a lot of nights against bad teams, when you just need some scoring punch, you need extra juice, you need somebody to consistently knock down open 3 pointers or generate open 3 pointers or be have gravity and take some pressure off of Trae Young to make every decision, make every read, make sure everything is perfect. Luke Kennard can do that. Like to me, I don't know how many minutes Luke can play in the playoffs just due to his defense. Like he's very limited. The difference between Luke Kennard's defense and Trae Young's defense is that Trae Young is a much superior athlete, whereas Luke Kennard is a real negative athlete. And so, like, even though he tries hard and he competes, it's very easy for NBA caliber offensive players to take advantage of him. However, we will worry about the playoffs later. In the regular season, just to get this level of shooting, like if he's not the best shooter non-Steph division, he's up there. Consistently high middle 40s on high volume. Like, and on top of that, he has a variety of shot profiles. Like he can shoot off the move, he can shoot off the catch, he can dribble into his shot. And he's also grown. Like, and the thing about Luke the last couple of seasons is he's grown as a playmaker. Like he's much better playing in the pick and roll and generating good offense for himself. The Desmond Bain, Luke Kennard minutes did a really good job these last 2 years with Ja Morant being in and out of the lineups. Like they did a really good job of like solidifying the Grizzlies' offensive floor in ways that before Luke kind of made that leap hadn't been the case. So like overall to me, um, he's somebody who's like just a significant upgrade of what they've had, and they needed a real shooter to ultimately replace Bogey, and like he's a better shooter than Bogey, but he's not defensively. He's way worse. So it's kind of a trade off. But the good thing is about his defense, and I want to make this point because there were some nights the Grizzlies just couldn't play it. Like they were like our lineups, we don't have the personnel to support you while also playing Ja Morant, Scottie Pippen Jr., Desmond Bain, smaller guard type players. The Hawks, outside of Trae Young, if you look at their rosters, currently filled with a bunch of guys who are 6'5" and taller, with long wingspans, who are good to great athletes that are very good also at covering for defensive liabilities. Like I think the Hawks are going to have the infrastructure, particularly when he's not playing next to Trae Young, to hide Luke Kennard a lot better. And also, like if you want to run lineups where Jalen Johnson isn't in, when Jalen Johnson and Trae being separated a bit more, and you're staggering the minutes, which they tried to do last year, but they didn't really have the guard play to really support those lines. It was really Jalen and Dyson and no shooting. Now you got a Luke Kennard Jalen can play off of. Maybe we see a real growth from Jalen as a guy to lead the offense, so to speak, when Trae's off the floor. Like so, there's just a lot. Like there's just a lot of benefits of getting somebody of Luke Kennard's caliber on the offensive end, and combine that with Nickeil Alexander Walker and whatever else the Hawks may do, because I don't believe they're done. Um, it's been a great offseason. Like they've significantly upgraded their bench in ways that puts them in to being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And honestly, they can push to be one of the best teams in the NBA. Like I genuinely feel that, considering the depth, the talent that they've acquired. Like you look at their roster, it's 7 real starters right now. It's very similar to what the Hawks did in 2021 when they had Gallo and Bogey coming off the bench. It's different. Instead of it being offensive focus, it's more defensive focus. But you have guys who are better at two-way play in Nickeil Alexander Walker, Zachary Richardson, Jalen Johnson, and Dyson Daniels. If he can, you should expect that Dyson's going to be a little bit better than what he was on offense last year. Uh, this is looking great for the Hawks. And I can't wait for the season to start.
Tyler lives in Memphis. Glenn used to live in Minneapolis. I used to live in Washington. So if anybody out there has Andre Blatch questions, I'm available on Twitter. Come find me. I'll let you know whatever you want to know about some god awful Wizards teams. Tyler used that 7 starters phrase. It seems pretty apt. 3 of those starters coming this week, and the 3 starters that they're getting this week in Alexander Walker, Porzingis, and Kennard are all, how would you grade them as shooters? They're all like grade A shooters. Is that fair to say? Like these are 40% guys?
Just one note: I wouldn't call Kennard a starter. Um,
Okay.
it's
So who are your 7 starters?
Porzingis, Jalen,
Oh,
Zachary Richardson, Dyson Daniels, Trae Young,
I'm
Onyeka
bad at
Okongwu,
math.
Nickeil Alexander Walker. So 7 starters. Luke Kennard, good eighth man that every team needs to really help, for the most part, really elevate this team's offense when Trae Young is off the floor. Just stabilize the offense and be a real gravity threat so that these other athletic types can really take advantage of his gravity and be consistent drivers in ways that the Hawks really can't be when Trae's not on the floor. So that's why but I just want to clarify because I think it's
No,
important that we
that was my phrase, and I made it. I goofed. I get it. Porzingis and Walker being the 2 added to the 5 that were already here. My
mm-hmm.
bad. Um, when you look at this roster, right? They've basically got 12 players now, right? The five who started last year. You added Porzingis, you added Nikhil Alexander Walker. So that was the seven. We talked about Kennard as an eighth. You've got Mo and Veet maybe around 9, 10, Buffkin 11, Asa Newell 12. When you're looking at this roster now and you're thinking, okay, three roster spots left, how do you want to go about patching those three roster spots? Assuming, okay, we know Capella's gone, assuming Garrison Matthews is gone, Dominic Barlow's qualifying offer was declined, and Karis LeVert is in Detroit, and the Hawks also have the sort of second round draft rights to Nikola Jurisic. Like putting all that together, like how do you fill three more spots here and make it make sense and try to patch as many holes as possible so that when somebody goes down, you've got what you need. And the one person I should have mentioned there that I didn't was Larry Nance Jr.
I mean, for me, I think they need another guy who can play the three and the four. Some size. It's hard for me to know like who should that person be based on who's left. Um, but that for me, that's what I want. Can shoot enough, but has some defensive versatility. So that's what I'm looking for. I would have loved to have had Laravia, but he signed with the Lakers. Um, so it'd be interesting to see, if how they go about kind of filling that spot. Do they want a veteran who can do that? Is there one of those available, or do they want to? Some teams feel like they can identify a guy, a youngish guy, maybe he's 2, 3 years in, didn't really get a chance to play where he was, but they think if they give him the opportunity, he could step in and kind of do those things. So you could go young and kind of invest in your belief that you can make a young guy kind of start to work and fit in, or maybe you come out a veteran who wants to be on a good team, a team that's going to win, and will play for minimum.
Yeah, so they probably want to scour, because a lot of teams are making some roster cuts. Some young guys have been cut recently, so they might want to scour that market to see if they can poach somebody. Jake LaRavia, unfortunately, I think he played himself a little too well outside of the role that's currently available to the Hawks right now. We're probably talking about a guy who's not going to play every game, who's really going to be a DNP unless there's injuries. So you're probably going to either lean on somebody who's on their way out the league as a veteran or a complete a young prospect that's looking for opportunities anywhere they can find them. Just because if you just look at it, like I think the Hawks were comfortable when push came to shove. They were comfortable with losing Karis LeVert primarily for this reason that I'm talking about, where it's like we think we have enough in Kobe Buffkin and Zachary Risache and Dyson Daniels um, to recover from losing somebody like Karis LeVert and not overpaying to retain his services. And I think that's important because it's not just that they acquired all these guys, but they didn't overpay to get them, right? They did not overpay to get them, so that doesn't limit their optionality. Shout out to Ansi. It doesn't limit their optionality going forward to if they feel like we have to go get a wing. Okay, we have the mechanisms to do that to get a good rotation level player. I personally don't know who that is right now in the market. It's still things are still fluid right now, so we'll see. But I would wager that they're probably going to. I mean, they might look to Europe, honestly. Like I think it would behoove them to be considering the role that's available to this player to be flexible in regards to who they want and uh, not just like look for the veteran that has a proven track record and overpay for their services because this is I think this is going to be for more or less like an insurance policy if something happens, which something will almost certainly happen. This is the NBA now. That's just reality of the league. But I wouldn't look to like overspend for this type of player.
And in terms of getting like a third big, like if you look at like Porzingis Okongwu, in a lot of ways feels to me like Porzingis Horford. Like there's a lot of parallels there. And Boston for years and years, they kind of stack some bigs there, knowing that, there are going to be nights when you just need a rebounder or, Kristaps is going to be out for 3 weeks, things like that. Like, do the Hawks need to do that? Do they need to get like somebody who's just like a rock solid defensive rebounder for whatever purposes you need, or do you think it's going to be Larry Nance? Like how are the Hawks going to go about trying to back up uh Porzingis Okongwu?
I mean, I think Nance. So I mean, it depends on if we need to prioritize offense or defense, and we talked about that, right? So Nance can give you everything you want on offense, but if you need a bigger guy in those games, like I was curious. I mean, I was surprised how much New Orleans gave Kevon Looney. That surprised me. Well, maybe none of us should be surprised what New Orleans do anymore. So, but you know, it feels like they had a good experience in Nance last year, and that he's probably going to be the one coming back. I think that's totally fine. Um, but there are some games where I mean, validating some of the Hawks fans out there, like Nyeka's not 7 feet. First of all, that's being exaggerated a lot. They're don't want to get too technical, but there are ways to overcome size differential with versatility and help and all that sort of stuff. And Porzingis gives you weak side rim protection that they didn't really have last year. I mean, Mo Gay gave you a surprising amount of it in the minutes that he played, but he's not 7'3", and he's a guy who's not big enough. I mean, he's gonna in some matchups he's gonna get pushed around and things like that. So I mean, it feels like it's gonna be Nance, but I mean, if they went Thomas Bryant or someone who works hard, plays hard, kind of a grinder. I think that's fine too. But I enjoyed watching Nance play last year. It was unfortunate he got hurt, and I'd be totally up for him coming back.
It can't be Tony Bradley. The Pacers picked up his option.
Yeah, the not Pelicans did a smart thing.
You know, it's interesting because with the Hawks drafting Asa Newell, it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong here, it feels like the Hawks have like a type of big that they want. So I don't think they're going to get the big bruising type of center that's over 250 plus pounds, 7'2", and can't really like is really limited as a mover. I don't think that's what they're looking for. I think they're looking for guys in the Mo Gay, Asa Newell type of body type, or being a Kongu who's like an elite athlete but a shorter player. Uh, I can, with all that said, I do think this is setting up for Larry Nance to come back, and it is interesting. So, I just want to make note of this. Like a lot of NBA teams really went hard on backup centers, like, and they paid a lot of money in these free agencies to secure, uh, like this issue that their teams had. You look at the Clippers did it with Brook Lopez. Um, the Rockets did it with Clint Capella. I mean, considering their center depth, they were like, no, we got to get another one because Steven Adams, they don't trust his injury history. They want to be completely covered in that role in that position, so they get Capella so that they can maintain what they do um, with or without Steven Adams. So I think that was shrewd by them, but just like a lot, and they all got a lot more money than people thought. Like I think a lot of people thought they were going to get minimums or maybe less than you know 3 or 4 mil a season. They got healthy contracts with healthy years attached. So it's going to be interesting what the Hawks do for this third big. I'm of the opinion, as things are currently constructed, that they're probably going to have problem getting somebody better than a Larry Nance just because the again similar to the wing spot, the role's not there. I think Mo Gay is going to play. I think Mo Gay is going to play a lot, and I think Asa Newell. I think the Hawks might be comfortable playing him in advantageous positions. Maybe not to start the season, but I think they expect that Asa Newell is going to play this season just based on what I've seen in his film. Like I think he's more ready than people realize on both ends of the floor. It's just more about can he gain the weight or can he gain the strength less than the weight. I think that's really his biggest issue because when the film I watched, and mentally he was there. Like mentally, honestly, he was doing a lot of stuff on both ends of the floor to help his team win games. And I think that's going to translate to the next level considering the type of athlete he is. So I just think the minutes aren't there like for the Hawks to, oh yeah, let's go get Goga Bitadze or fill him in. Goga wants to play. And if the Hawks get him, they can't guarantee he's going to play most nights. Like, oh, you're just a specialist. Like, he's too good for that role. So it's kind of similar. Like, if they want that bigger center, it's kind of similar to what I was talking about with the Wings. They're probably going to want to maybe look to Europe or maybe look to these undrafted free agents. Let's see who they sign to their summer league team. Maybe they're look there, see what they have in the G League team going forward. And this time don't miss out on the Tony Bradley, who would have been the perfect fit for exactly what you're looking for, Kevin. We keep bringing Tony Bradley up, but it was an all-time miss. But like the ideal center would be a Tony Bradley type. Unfortunately, he's with the Pacers right now.
It's funny that, I started with joking about these summer roster guys, but like when you say the Hawks have a type, like watching Asa Newell tape for a week and then they go and offer Eli John Njai some kind of contract and you go see what he looks like, it's like, oh, he looks just like Newell. Like it's that type of player is exactly what they're sort of looking at, especially from like the four position. Like they're really putting a premium on that secondary weak side rim protection.
They gave
So
him a
yeah,
two-way.
I do think they have a type when you say that. Okay, so as the news broke today, the first one was from the Hawk side of things, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Shortly thereafter, Luke Kennard. And when the Luke Kennard news came out, a few of the big name NBA reporters were quick to include a tweet about Trey was recruiting. What do you make of that? Beyond maybe just Trey was recruiting, like what does this mean? What's coming next for Trey? Like,
Uh,
is this just him being a veteran? Is this him
well,
being
one,
committed to the vision? What are we looking at here?
I want to jump in here because one, I think a lot of it is he he's a client of CAA, and CAA, to their immense credit, knows the type of players that Trey would want to play with and needs to play with to have the most success in his career. And I believe both Kennard and NAW are CAA clients. So I don't think it's too surprising that hey, Trey was on the line with these guys when they have that connection. I think, and just in general, like since we've talked about this a lot about how Trey's matured as a person and as a basketball player, but since he's made the switch from Clutch to CAA, he's been a lot more mature about the Hawk situation and comfortable with their vision, and it also helps that the Hawks have been a lot smarter. And uh, they sold them on a plan, I think, for this offseason to be the offseason to make real changes to elevate this team to contender status, and they've done that. So I'm not surprised that he's been locked in. I believe he's basically been in the know since they got the number one overall pick. And I think that really helped a lot as well, just to give some optimism to him that hey, I can win a title here. They're trying to build something here, and so that's where I think it comes from. It comes from both Trey maturing and also CAA just truly having his best interests at heart instead of what the representation he was getting before.
Your real-time research, they are Kennard and Alexander Walker are both CAA guys. So, how do you feel about this one, Glenn?
No, I think it's we continue to see Trey growing, and and I mean, he came in the league so young, really, really young, and you'll some people will use the word an introvert, and we don't get to pick whether we're introverted or extroverted. I'm an extrovert. Even though I don't always sound like when I want to talk about basketball because I get pretty technical and analytical. But to me, it's just like this is part of the job. When you're the best player, when you're the face of your franchise, this is part of the job. And it seems like Trey's embracing that, and I think that's encouraging, and I think he should be applauded for it.
Do you think this has what do you think Trey is thinking going into this sort of extension eligible summer?
I think it's not just him. I think he's thinking it, and I think the Hawks are thinking it too. That it's time. It's time to put a real team on the floor. It's time to put a functional rotation on the floor. It's time to give Quinn options where he can, navigate matchups and game to game and game situations and all that sort of stuff. So, like I said, they had no method to fast forward the process the last 2 years. They had to dig out from that DeJounte trade. And now, here we are, and they're putting a good team together. And so hopefully that makes Trey. I know the questions everyone has now is he going to want the full max? Is he gonna be willing to work with them like Derek White did with the Celtics, and like I guess Brunson's the one everyone kind of brings up.
Fellow
The big
CAA
out.
client. Yeah, yeah. It's
I
connected. I
knew that was
look.
coming.
I don't mean to cut you off, Glenn, about the CAA thing, but I think it's important. Like, think about where Trey Young was when the Hawks went to go trade for DeJounte Murray. He was like, I need a star to play with. And so we're gonna get the star that we perceive to be most valuable, who's cheapest, and we're gonna push our go half in to get DeJounte Murray because I gotta play with a star. When he got to CAA, they're like, Trey, you need good role players next to you. And also they explained to him like, hey, being a role player does not mean they're bad at basketball or that they're mediocre at basketball. It means they play a role to accentuate your strengths and limit your weaknesses because you have real weaknesses in this league. We have to cover for your lack of size. We have to. You can't win a title if we're trotting out lineups where we can't hide you. We just can't. And so, in order not, in order, I mean, if we can't hide you, if we can hide you, we can win a title. But the only way to hide you is with physical freaks of nature with long wingspans who are athletic and who are smart, who understand the game, who understand the nuances, who can make quick calls that maybe this wasn't on the scouting report, but they see it in the game in the moment and they make the decision. And so, like, I think his representation now is like, hey, Trey, this is what you need. Look what we did with Jalen Brunson. We we think we can do that for you. We can do that for you, but you got to trust us that these are the type guys you need. Not the not we're not going to pay you with because the superstar era. I think of multiple stars getting together un, inorganically. I think that's over. And I think we're in an era of you got to build your stars within, and then you got to supplement your stars with free agent signings, with good acquisitions, with good draft picks, develop them internally, and so that you can grow your team naturally. And that's where I think is the difference between what Trey was back then with Clutch and what he is now with CAA. I think they really got to Trey and they were like, hey, we think the world of you, but we got to clean some of this up. We got to clean up your image. We got to clean up your persona, at least to the public, because people really think like people really thought like Trey was this supreme like problem child. Like the type of conversations people were having about Trey, I didn't feel rep, like representative of the type of person or the type of basketball player he was. Trey plays hurt all the time. Trey gives 100% all the time. Like Trey tries and he cares and he wants to win, but everybody like it just became like an echo changer of people thinking he's in it for himself, he's in it for the highlights, he's in it for the like things that he doesn't care that like he really doesn't care that much about. And so he gets the CAA, and guess what they do? They change his image about him. They put him more. They encourage him to speak more to the media. They encourage him to like let his hair down, so to speak, and just like be more himself instead of trying to be what he thinks a superstar should be, what the clutch superstar template is. I really think like the CAA thing, I think cannot be stressed enough. They got to him and they believe in his messaging. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah, the other thing, real quickly, at Clutch, there's a pecking order. They get their top guys paid first, and if you're not a top guy, you're waiting, and the cap space is disappearing. That's why guys leave Clutch and go to CAA because in CAA at Clutch, it's the top guys are all that really matters. Everyone else falls into a secondary or tertiary category.
Very good. I didn't mean to make this a trade podcast. Lots of other things happening, but he's the straw that stirs the drink, and it's fascinating. So,
Indeed.
all right, great points, and I guess we'll say goodnight, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Good, Bob.